Yes, sir, you are audible.
Perfect.
Yeah. A very good afternoon to all of you. I am Mosmi Ghosh, the research scholar of NIT Rourkela. Welcome you all on the second day of our short-term course. Now, I would like to welcome Mr. Dinkar Tiwari, currently serves as the lead of the technical core team for digital transformation at Northern Coalfield Limited. His substantial role in the field has characterized his professional journey. He has previously held the position of executive engineer at Southeastern Coalfield Limited, demonstrating his technical proficiency and leadership. Furthermore, his experience extends to his role as a deputy manager in the corporate planning department at Northeast Coalfield Limited, where he has contributed to strategic planning and organizational development. His educational background includes a bachelor degree in mining and mineral engineering from the prestigious NIT Raipur, and he has further enriched his knowledge with an executive diploma in project management from the International Institute of Project and Program Management. We are indeed honored to have such a distinguished guest among us today. Sir, please. So you can unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mosmi, for such a long introduction. So, hi everyone. I'm Dinkar, a part of Northern Coalfields Limited. I think most of you might be aware of that. Today, I'm going to talk on a very important topic. I think my screen might be visible. Just anybody confirm? Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, perfect. So my topic for today's discussion is going to be waste to wealth in energy sector, and I'll try to stick myself around into the overall theme of entire short-term course, that is cultivating sustainable excellence, masterclass in ESG reporting and impact measurement. So I have divided my entire conversation into first to develop the understanding of energy sector. Then I'll talk about what are the different waste that are generated in energy sector. And then further, I will try to have a little bit, discussion over what has been the global learning experience and how SASB is also having a very strong impact over waste management. Later, I would, try to give a little way forward where how we should head, right? So as of now, energy sector, when we talk about energy sector, that entire population is directly or indirectly being associated with energy sector, mostly by the consumers. When we talk about the producers, so I think there are 40% of the district that are having direct impact and who are falling under the energy value chain. The direct employment in this entire energy value chain close to 3.6 million. I think if directly, this is the employment status so far. If we see the impact in line with the commitment of net zero, is these around 3.6 million people in terms of direct population. When we take to in an overview, or the total population that is being impacted is close to 2 to 2.5 CR. As of now, generally, we are dependent over for the energy production in the terms for thermal based, renewable, wind, hydro, and the nuclears. My talk is going to be primarily concentrated over the TPPs, because we are talking that we are going to have a direct transition and we are going to basically phase down the thermal power plants. So how we are going to do that, what are the implications, and how effectively we can manage that, learning from the global experience. I think you might be able to see my screen where we are talking in terms of production. Chinese are leading in terms of coal production with 4,679 million tons of coal production per annum. And when we talk about India, last year we have seen our overall coal production of 893 million tons. For the other major parts of the world, you can see the stats. Now, my point here is that where do we stand? I think on the left side of my screen, you are able to see this particular part, right? Where I have compared that GDP versus per capita in the energy consumption between India, China, and USA. When we talk about India, I have taken basically one equivalent unit in order to compare the China and USA. Here we are having a GDP close to 3.5 trillion tons. Here it is written in the yellow minus inflation impacted. And the per capita energy consumption is around 1 to 1.8 kilowatt hour per capita. When we compare with China, that is approximately 6 times of our size, it is having a per capita demand of 5985, somehow we're 5 times than the overall energy demand of India. Now, when we talk about USA, its GDP size is approximately $23 trillion economy. And when we compare the per capita energy consumption, it is going to be 13,076. When we say that India is going to become the third world largest economy, then we need to understand with the linkage of GDP, there is another important indicator that is linked, that is per capita energy consumption. Suppose we are saying that as of now, our GDP is approximately 3.2. Next, 2030, it is going to touch approximately 6 to 7 trillion dollar economy. Then the overall energy demand is also going to be 3 times. When we talk about how we are getting the energy, you can see what has been the present energy mix. We get 50.70 from coal and lignite. From oil and gas and diesel, we are getting approximately 6.1% of the overall energy demand. From hydro or wind, we have combined impact of over 22.5%, but with the solar, I think that is going to be one of the emerging sector, we are having a total contribution of 16.1%. This figure, when we say that by 2030, we are going to become the third largest economy or so, means that if we say that we need to ensure that we are trying to meet our net zero target, it means that in the percentage terms, coal and lignite will have a steady impact. But the major thrust that has been given by the government of India is over solar, that we are going to produce close to 500 gigawatts of energy. Now, when we talk about that energy transition, we need to understand it is not just the figures. It is the effort that the government, that the private sector, and even the consumer has to take to meet the overall aspiration of the economics and the energy targets. As per the IEA estimates, in order to meet these targets, we need to have additional $160 billion investment, particularly in the energy sector. Now, what has been the trend so far in the energy sector is that the government is having that idea that first we will exploit or say utilize the maximum thermal power based energy in the next 15 to 18 years. So the government vision says that we will reach our peak by 2040 when we talk about these two. Basically, coal and lignite, in terms of their absolute value, are going to reach their peak approximately having a growth of over 220% or so. When we talk about the overall energy transition in India, there are two figures that are very, very important. One is the 2047, another is the 2070. That is the COP26 commitment made by government that we are going to reach that. Apart from that, COP26 has brought some another targets. I think Prime Minister Modi has set us for that, calling Panchamrit. Is saying that we will reach the non-fossil based energy capacity to 500 gigawatt by 2030. That is a very, very aspirational target. It will require a lot of corpus. Basically, financial support is a very, very important enabler to meet this 500 gigawatt target. Next is going to be reduce 1 billion carbon emission by 2030. Then reduce the carbon intensity greater than 45% by 2030. And then ultimately achieving the net zero target by 2070. So these are the targets that government has set for the near future. Now, my talk is going to concentrate or basically put forth an overview how we can meet these two. One is to meet the non-fossil based energy capacity to 500 gigawatt, and second is 1 billion ton of carbon emission reduction. I will be emphasizing what could be the modality and how existing energy infrastructure can enable the government to achieve these two. When we talk about the 2047, that is going to be that India's 100 years of independence, and in that line the government or the Honorable Prime Minister has said that by 2047 we are going to become energy independent. So how we are going to do that, in what terms we are having right now, and how waste generated by the municipal sewerage or the waste generated by the energy sector can play a very powerful role in meeting this particular target of energy independence. By that time, we need to also understand where we would lie in terms of our GDP or our electricity demand. As per the projections made by some of the research agencies, says that we are going to have 4 times of our current size. And in terms of electricity's demand, it is going to raise by 6x because the increasing urbanization there, I might say, you must have seen that in the last 20 years, our energy demand has, increased by 2x or 3x. But however, we were able to meet by the rapid, installation of energy producing companies. Next 25 years are going to be crucial because we have certain limitation that commissioning of new thermal power plant is going to be very, very challenging. When we talk about the net zero by 2070, which means that we are going to close to have a GDP size of 6 times of the current values, and our overall electricity demand is going to jump by 9x. And I think we might be the population of close to 1.7 billion by that time. Here we will be having 1.6 billion ton, and if our TFR stays the figure that it is today, that we are going to have an overall population of 1.7 billion ton who needs energy, because by that time I would it is very normal that we are going to have achieve the 100% literacy. Literacy means they are going to have education and they are going to do a job. Once they are going to do a job, we need to have energy. We need to have status of small luxuries like fridge is going to be, maybe it is going to held with everyone. Maybe the basic requirement is going to be met for these 1.7 billion population. Moving forward to the waste hierarchy, because I am now entering into my core topic, that how we are actually going to create wealth out of it. When we talk about the conventional waste hierarchy, it is basically made of 5 stages, or there are different 5 ways by which at present India is managing its waste. One is the disposal. I think that is one of biggest manner by which we are managing our waste. But with these disposals, as of now, there is zero value creation happening. In the next stage, where I think Indore has taken up, Jaisalmer is setting up plant, Andhra Pradesh government, Telangana government has taken a step forward where they are going to install that waste to energy plants. Now they are falling under recovery phase. In that recovery phase, this overall waste is basically processed, and ultimately some sort of energy is being generated. The third stage is recycle. I think that is going to be the backbone of the circular economy vision that is being presented by our Honorable Finance Minister in her last budget, that we need to achieve the circular economy. For that, recycling is a must. Then we talk about the reuse, basically using the material. I think energy sector has this kind of waste to maximum quantum. We can actually use the material with a very little or no processing requirement. And the last or the utopian scenario would be to reduce the total waste created in the first place. Fortunately, we have started moving in upward of this pyramid. I think you might be hearing that there has been multiple impetus given to generate energy from different sources. Now moving towards the energy sector, what are the different challenges that we face? And based on those challenges, what are the different value or the wealth creation option that we have? Here, simply considering a scenario, take an example of a mine, because in India, 95% of this total coal production comes from these open cast mines. Now, these open cast mines generate multiple types of waste. One is that overburden material. Suppose there is a coal lying at 60 meters of depth, then the top 60 meters has to be excavated and put in a separate place to enable the coal to be sold to the consumers. Now these rock or the overlying strata, currently there is a very limited market available for its utilization, but it has a lot of potential. As of now, the Indian coal is of very inferior quality. When we say inferior quality, means it contains a lot of waste. And the the major waste that we see from the current scenario is the ash. Indian coal contains close to 30 to 35% of ash content. As of now, when we say that Coal India is all set to produce overall coal production of 1 billion ton in the next coming 1 year or so, then this volume of ash generation and its management is going to be approximately 300 to 350 million ton. That's a huge volume, very, very huge volume. As of now, we are able to utilize the ash because 92% of ash is being utilized in the larger brick industries. But the current quantum of management is approximately 200 million tons. Now, additional 100 million tons planning is required, a lot of investment is required, and a lot of alternate ways are required through which we can actually engage the local stakeholders to be, being a very important part of it. Apart from that, after the mining processes are completed, these lands are given for the technical reclamation. The max they do is, just fill those dumps or the voids through the overburden material that they have taken. After filling the material, plantation is carried out. But can we have alternate uses of those lands? Can't we install solar panels in that, like China is doing in its western states, having very lesser pollution density? These are the certain questions that the government or the policymakers has to answer. So how do we move forward? Before moving forward, let's understand where do we stand. What kind of waste that we are generating right now. So this, I think you are able to see these three charts. These are basically the World Bank figures. When they were analyzing the different income groups of countries, they have understood a very interesting trend of the waste. Like low income countries, that is the mostly African countries, are generating 76% of their organic waste. In case of middle income countries, their organic waste reduces to 58%, but the paper waste, plastic waste takes a quantum jump to up to 15 to 11%. When we talk about the high income countries, the organic waste is limited, but the paper waste close to 36%. I think in the coming years, this trend is going to change. This paper waste is going to be replaced by the e-waste that are being generated as of the present scenario. And Government of India has issued the e-waste management policy and act in 2016. But the infrastructure to manage the e-waste or to generate value out of it is yet to be realized. Now, since I was talking about the three major years, I have divided my entire, methodology or the mindset into three different terms. One is the short term for the next 7 years, medium terms for the next 25 years, and the long term when we try to achieve the net zero aspirational targets. Now, here FE is basically fossil-based energy, RE is renewable energy, and then NE is basically nuclear-based energy. And then what are the waste to wealth opportunities that exist? When we talk about 2030, basically, as I already told, the government is planning to reach its peak of coal production up to 2040. Means government had allowed itself to a window of 20 years that by this time we might reach to a level where our economic aspirations are somehow met. Our alternate industries or the alternate energy options has gone much cheaper, and we have a handful experience of the global practices. Because in the coming slides, I will be also talking about what experience we can take forward. But in the next 18 years, there is going to be a big change in this entire energy sectors, because this is at the primary crosshairs of entire change. So in terms of renewable energy, you will see in next 7 years, because when government has been promoting EVs a lot, there has been a multiple jump in terms of photovoltaic cells, basically solar panels. We are also looking at the alternate options. As of now, if I see in terms of renewable energy, we need to have lithium, because you can generate a lot of energy, but it is no use when we are not able to store it. For that, lithium is very crucial, and we are going to see that as of now, India has very limited resources. We are dependent over Taiwan for lithium. We are dependent over China for lithium, or the South America for lithium. And the next coming year is going to be a very pivot. You might see the government making investment overseas for the mining of these crucial minerals. Then in terms of nuclear energy, government has said that we are going to achieve the nuclear energy because it is the safest, most robust, but very capital intensive industry. So we are setting a target. I think government has set a target to achieve 20 gigawatt of energy generation capacity by 2032. Now, where do we stand, or where there is an option to create wealth out of the waste? One is that as of now, the present waste management sector is having a total market size in Indian context to close to $32 billion. And this industry is growing rapidly, like ever increasing, having a CAGR of over close to 6.5%. This is going to touch close to 40 billion in India alone by 2030. Apart from that, the entire discussion is about ESG reporting. This ESG reporting, I think you all might be, you are management student or the industry people, you must have heard that recently SEBI has issued a mandatory guideline to, report the BRSR value. Now, in case of BRSR also, the waste management is a very important part. By next 2047, the fossil-based energy is going to start, declining after reaching its peak during 2040. In case of renewable energy, it is expected that India will take a slow but a very leapfrog jump to explore hydrogen as a major economy, because as of now, our honorable transport minister has recently inaugurated the hydrogen-based car, but it is only car in India. A population of 1.43 billion is going to have much more investment in terms of hydrogen economy. And that we are going to witness in the next 25 years. In case of nuclear energy, the government of India has set an aspirational target to meet 16% of overall energy demand. Basically, the depletion from fossil-based energy is going to be taken up by the nuclear-based energy. Now, what are the waste to wealth opportunities that exist that we need to start thinking today? As per the reports, the effective age of photovoltaic cell or the photovoltaic plates that are being used to generate solar based energy is having a life of close to 25 years. There is a good chance that India has started its solar vision in 2009, but it took a rapid jump after Paris Agreement in during 2017, and now we have surpassed our overall targets of solar based energy. But these kinds of photovoltaic cell has a limitation that they are having a total life of 25 years. So we need to have mechanism, or we need to have infrastructure ready to be available by 2047, where we are going to handle this bulk of photovoltaic cell, through which we can actually develop a circular economy, through which again the overall solar based energy can be produced. By 2047, as we say that overall coal production will come to its very, very low value. Oil and gas energy based energies are going to be completely shut down, and the primary driver for 2070 is going to be hydrogen based economy and renewable energy and the already installed nuclear energy. Based on these three timelines, what we can see, there is a very dynamic change in terms of the kind of waste we are managing. For next 20 years, we need to manage the waste that are generated by the fossil-based energy, but we need to be prepared for the waste that will be developed by the renewable energy. And also, there is a good volume of waste that is being generated across the cities by this population of close to 1.3 billion to manage and to generate alternate energy sources. By the way, for the record, as of now, we are only able to produce 0.1% of energy demand through waste to energy conversion. Now, this figure is very, very minimal given the quantum of waste that we are producing every year. So where is the scope of wealth creation is happening? One, I have already told you, utilization of mining waste. Now that is OB. Talking about the Northern Coalfield Limited experience, we have recently installed the sand plant. Now this sand plant is completely, generating sand through that rocks that we have already, broken in order to excavate coal. And the unit cost is coming to be very, very low. That is close to 348 rupees million, just meter cube. That's very low in terms of the current, current scenario of demand of sand, because we need to have infrastructure for the next 20-25 years. And there is a massive investment, massive capital is required in this space. This sector, or the sand over demand sector, is growing with a CAGR of close to 6.2%. Now, best part about these sand plants, that first they are manufactured, second they are saving the precious river bands. We have been witnessing India is at the rank 5 when it comes to climate change vulnerability index, and now this rank can improve if we utilize this sand. And the volume of this sand is sufficient to cater the demand of entire 2 to 3 states alone through Singrauli coalfield itself. Then utilization of fly ash. Now here we have limit the overall utilization of fly ash to brick industry. You might have started seeing those grayish bricks being used. They are basically made from the fly ash, but as I have already told you, after 1 BT, there is going to be a humongous jump in terms of fly ash creation. We need to have our infrastructure ready. We need to have modalities through which we can actually generate a lot of wealth through these fly ashes. There is another market that has opened in, I think, 29th June of this year. Government of India has issued that we need to have carbon credit trading system. In that carbon credit system, that is having basically the impetus from the European change that is expected to take place in next 2 years, that we need to have a methodology where the investment made for waste management is to be recognized and is to be given the credits, right? in terms of their market operations, in terms of their modalities. As of now, Government of India is framing. And you must have heard that Bureau of Energy Efficiency, there is already opened a energy exchange market. Now the wealth management market is also going to be a part of this energy exchange market in the coming year. I think my earlier, speakers have already told you about the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions. Is it correct? I think I just have to check.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So what are the different types of emissions that are taking place? Scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, you must have already heard of that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Any one of the student can tell me what is scope 1, what is scope 2, what is scope 3, so that I can move forward.
Scope 1, sir, which has direct, show the direct impact, whereas the scope 2 and scope 3, they emit the gas indirectly. In the scope 1, like the vehicles registered in the name of the owner, if they produce.
Yeah. Perfectly. So basically, you are trying to say is that whatever lies within the boundary of an organization, whatever emission takes place, is falling under the scope 1, right? Am I correct, Renu? I think. Am I correct? Within the boundary of that corporation that we are evaluating. Under scope 2, we have the indirect uses. Say we are having electricity generated in some other power plant, but we are using it for our own purpose. So that will fall in scope 3, scope 2, and then scope 3 comprises anything other than that we have missed in scope 1 and scope 2. Now, why I am talking about that? Just let me get back to my presentation. Just a second. Yeah. So here, I think this part is already over. Just let me know if the screen is visible. Is it visible in the full screen mode?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So here, where am I? Okay, good. So here, this is the scope 3 part. In the scope 3, material waste is a very, very important evaluation criteria. This is a very important criteria when we talk about the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. As of now, many of the Indian companies have announced that they are going to become net zero by 2035, 2033. I think, recently L&T has announced, Vedanta has announced, even Tatas have announced, but they are concentrated to these scopes only, 1 and 2. But now the time has come, we need to develop a framework, and that framework is going to bring a lot of jobs. A lot of new industries will be coming where they will be developing the framework to evaluate these scope 3 based emissions. And you are already aware that SEBI has issued the guidelines. So there is a lot of thrust going on to evaluate what is the waste you are generating, how you are managing, and whether you are managing it or not. And in terms of carbon credits or the emission reduction certifications, the Bureau of Energy Efficiency has already recognized waste management as important wing of that. Now, what these areas means, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 11. Now, if a company, say even TCS tries to make some investment in the waste management, their project will be reimbursed and a carbon credit will be issued annually to the TCS for making investment, right? It means that companies are going to be encouraged to invest a lot on these 11 areas, and out of which waste management is a very, very important aspect, right? And this carbon credit scheme that has been recently issued by the Government of India in 29th June, they are also talking about a comprehensive methodology and how we are going to move forward to make carbon credit market a little bit more responsible, and the frameworks are being put in place. I think I have recently attended the talk by one of the major director of BEE. They are saying that within next 6 to 7 months, you are going to hear a big news about the carbon credit market, which means it is going to have a lot potential in terms of its marketability. When we talk about the ESG mapping, where do we lie? Here, I was talking about the GHG emissions. Mind you, my friends, I'm talking in terms of GRIs, right? GRI based framework in which we are using the greenhouse gas emissions. Moving forward, the overall agenda of this topic is ESG. In terms of ESG mapping, it is impacting three important areas. One is the waste management in its environmental head. In terms of governments, the major impact is going to be levies and taxes. And social impact is also connected, not directly but indirectly, that how it can actually bring a change over the economic opportunities. In SASB, if you will go that SASB standards in coal operation, the matrix exists because SASB is basically comprising 5 important parts, out of which first is industry description, second is disclosure topics, third is the matrix, fourth is technical protocol, and fifth is activity matrix, out of which you can find the matrices. In matrices, the waste management is a very important part. Now, these two figures I'm quoting directly from the SASB website. You can find it. Okay, these are the different codes that are being used. See how much non-mineral waste is generated. And then when we talk about generated, how much is recycled, what is your policy to manage, means SASB standards, if we'll follow, is going to have a lot of, going to bring a lot of motivation to have data-driven market in terms of waste management. Now, learning from the globe. Since we have talked about Indian perspective, we have talked about what has been the current situation so far. I am, I have taken 4 different models for all of you. One, let's start with the, Norway. Let's start with the Norway, right? So, how they have failed and how they have moved forward. Carbon emission is a major challenge for all of the countries, but the most critical challenge for the countries, they are lying close to the iceberg, right? I think you must have heard that this is falling very close to the northern island. So in order to curb their own emission, they have tried to establish the CCTS, carbon sequestration. Like, let me tell you, this and these are the 2 units that they have tried to establish, right? I'm quoting an example. I'm taking Norway, for instance. They have tried to develop a plant of carbon capture and storage and carbon sequestration into their, ocean shore called Mongstad, in which the Norway Prime Minister has announced a lot of big reforms that they are going to take unprecedented steps to capture carbon in its place, at its source, and billions of euros was invested. But later it was found that it is not a very good idea, because if 10,000 crores investment is giving you an overall return of 500 crores, not to impacting the overall, overall GHG scenario, then you are not going to make that. That was the same case with the Norway, because in Norway, that CCTS was, a lot of capital was invested, but its capacity was very, very limited, right? And if I will compare, if China, we can try to adopt the Norwegian model to Indian scenario. NTPC alone requires an investment close to 1 lakh crore, quote unquote 1 lakh crore. Now that they can, entire imagination or the impact over consumer to make this investment can be imagined in a country where the per capita income is close to 1 lakh. So that's why the carbon capture and sequestration is open to the private players, that you make investment in that, you try to, gain a lot of experience in that. Now, when we talk about the Chinese model, what they are doing, how they are doing, in China, their fly ash utilization is 70%. In comparison to us, that is, reaching close to 92% as of now. But the Chinese have basically divided their overall, economy into two zones. This is the Eastern China. Basically, most industries lies here, maximum cities, Beijing, Shanghai, Zhangzhou, all the major cities where the economic activity is happening is there. Most of the population, I think close to 70-75% population reside within this zone only. This part of China, which is close to Mongolia and Russia, is almost barren. Uyghur Muslims live close to here, but overall, population density is very, very low. Now, what they have done, they have tried to develop the humongous wind-based energy, solar-based energy into these areas. And they are developing technology to transmit the energy to these parts. Means the power lines close to 2,000 kilometers are being used. And they are using DC lines. I think you must have heard that current is of two types, AC and DC. They have developed DC lines for transportation of these electricity from the western to eastern China. They have also set an aspirational target to set 150, I cannot write, okay, so 150 nuclear reactors by the end of 2040. My friends, as of now, the total world has developed 137 nuclear reactors so far. China is saying they are going to add 150 within next 18 years into their shore. So they are very much, bringing a lot of financial support to their technology, how we can minimize the waste, how we can minimize the overall loss in terms of electricity during its transportation, and they are making a lot of investment, close to 150 nuclear reactors that will cost trillions of dollars and for China alone. Let's talk about Poland. Now, Poland and India share the similar kind of economy. India is primarily, based on fossil-based energy. Per capita income is low. Other alternate sources are very limited. Same is the case with Poland. But they have started moving to the transition. Now, how they have done that? Now, Libya is a very small village. In that village, earlier it was primarily known for coal mining activities. The mining activity was taking place and there was very nearby a power plant through which the coal was processed and electricity was supplied to its villagers and to the nearby city. Once the coal of this area was over, what they have done three very important things. One, the utilization of land. They have used that land to convert it into waste management plants. The same land I was talking about in India, that they have utilized this mining waste land for the waste management. Second, there was plenty of infrastructure that was conceived by these mining companies. So they have utilized their infrastructure for the skill development. So one was the utilization of land to have a waste management plant, obviously coming at zero cost. Second is utilizing their infrastructure for the skill development. And the third and a very important part is that entire investment required for waste management was done by these corporations. They were running the coal mining. Simple. One, the land was used for the waste management. Second, the infrastructure was used for the skill development. Third, that the cost of installation of waste management plant was borne by the corporates, taken in a very small amounts as their mine closure cost that we at Coal India already pay. Best part about these two is that this waste management plant is completely run by the women. Means they are also sensitive towards the inclusion and ensuring the gender parity within the town. Now they have their skill ready at very minimal cost. They have utilized their plants and they have utilized the overall engagement of the local stakeholders into their own benefit, right? And America, I think I'm running out of time, I will simply quote, they have taken an initiative to convert consumers into prosumers, right? Tesla has offered to lease out the solar panels to its people at $50 a month cost. Imagine, $50 a month cost. As of now, the home electricity bill to the northern parts of the country is more than the $50. What if the same model can be replicated to Indian context? If we start leasing out, the consumer will have sufficient of electricity for their use for the rest of the energy that they can sell out to the grid. So this is the model they are using. Same model, I think somehow the mixture of both I have jotted down in this, where we are talking for the just transition, that as a part of energy transition or the waste management is not possible if we are not just. In which four bodies are playing a very, very important role. One is the statutory body, who need to have a methodology where the waste to wealth is being recognized in terms of relaxation, corpus support, and whatever the statutory support that can be lent upon these corporates who are making move like that. I think movement has already started, but there's a lot more to be done. Second are the corporates who are having very low influence and who are actually going to be very less impacted through the transition. But as of now, my dear friends, Coal India alone invest close to 1,000 crores in CSR. Close to 10,000 crore is being paid to the government as part of District Mineral Fund. Means around 11,000 crore rupees is available annually without impacting any corporates, without impacting government or anybody else, that is ready to be available for the investment, for the waste management, for the energy transition that can be done. So what I'm trying to say is that one, you are going to have a lot of barren lands, because as of now, Coal India alone has 430 mines, and 40 to 45% of these mines is going to be closed within the next 7 to 8 years. Now, if we are going to close 80 mines, now we have 80 mines land. Now each mine conceive a land close to 200 hectares to 2,000 hectares. That land can be utilized. The capital will come from DMFs, and the labor will be our local project affected peoples. PAPs is basically local project affected peoples, who are going to be trained in the facility of Coal India Limited or the NTPC, and they will be ready to generate a lot of value through this transition. It's a win-win scenario for statutory bodies, corporates, PAPs, and the governing system. For this, we need to sensitize our governing system that the DMFs should not be reallocated to other districts. They are meant and used to be a particular district that is being mostly affected by the mining operations. And this is the roadmap that I'm suggesting, that we need to have wait for the next 15 to 20 years to, adaptation of new technologies might come in. We are going to, do the electrification job for transportation in order to meet the net zero target or the energy independence. We need to develop certain methodology where we are going to have some learning from the American experience, then where we can lease out these solar panels to make our consumers to the prosumers. Through all these steps, we can actually decarbonize our overall economy. And then ultimately, engagement of stakeholders is a must to achieve the overall sustainable transition and the achieve overall vision where we are actually converting waste into a wealth. So the change is coming. We need to be ready for that. And I expect this change is going to be very, very impactful in the next 5 to 7 years. So thank you, everyone. I think I'm done with my talks. I would be so happy to take out questions from your end.
Thank you, sir, for imparting your invaluable insights. Now we can take questions from our participants.
I
Shall
think
we
I
share?
have one question or the two questions written with me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so first is the SOM or the School of Mining FDP has asked this question: why most of the waste to energy plants have mostly failed in India? What are the other alternatives according to you? So the major reason of failure is poor segregation of waste. Indore model is going to be, is going to be successful for sure. There is no doubt about it, because there is a very well waste segregation methodology, and the people in, just let me stop presenting. Yeah, the people are aware enough to, segregate their waste, because the processing of organic waste, inorganic waste is different. The energy that they are generating is different, and the processing is different. If you mix all these, the machineries fail, and the overall benefit is, is not realized to its full extent. So that's why they are failed. As of now, what are the alternatives available? One, we need to sensitize people just to start the waste segregation at source. If they are able to do that, the overall waste to energy plants can be made very, very successful. I think second question has been asked by the Mamtara. What are the challenges and barriers exist in widespread adoption of waste to energy technologies in India, and why? So challenges are two primarily. One is to basically close down the barrier of public investment and the government corporations, because government must have to shake hands. They cannot run the waste management plant. They need to shake hands with the private people, but private people need financial support. They need to assurance that they are going to get the return on investment, right? So that is something that we need to ensure. How vehicle policy scrap can be implemented successfully? Whether it is not, absolutely not. Vehicle scrap policy is nowhere saying it is not contradicting the overall sustainability concept. Let's understand what is vehicle scrap policy. First, what is the core idea behind it? Vehicle scrap policy is saying that if your vehicle is has crossed a certain years of life, it cannot run on road, which means that there is a strong chance that the kind of carbon sensitivity that we have today might not be existent 20 years ago or 15 years ago. So that car makers were having that mindset, and they have not developed the technology that can capture the carbon in a way, or the fuel efficiency is very, very limited. So now is the time where these vehicles can be taken back who are very much contributing to the pollution, right? And once we can eradicate these vehicles, the new technology or the BS6 models can be put on road, who are way more made with a carbon sensitivity. So it is not contradicting to the sustainability concept. What questions? What are the other questions that we have?
Sir, I am Deepak Ranjan. Sir, my question related to the hot topic in the parali burning, and according to you, what are the alternatives to change the waste, like parali waste, into energy?
So I think there are two kinds of methodology that can be adopted. One, the impact has been very, very vigilant for Delhi. But Deepak, I think if you are following the news, you must have heard that last year the scenario was better. Why? Because 2 years ago, Delhi government has announced that we are going to incentivize the farmers who are not burning the parali, right?
Yes.
Obviously, it is associated with different mechanism. Two governments are interacting. The government, since our government is there in Punjab and in Delhi, so they have a very consonance, and ultimately the result come out to be positive. But we need to have a low cost technology that can actually change these paralis into value, and so that farmers cut out like they are produce, like they take rice to the mills. Similarly, they can take this parali to those processing plants where they can actually generate some value. So we need to ensure that these farmers are paid well, and that is that framework is developed as such, is free out of corruption, because in the bottommost ladder, there is a very much scope of corruption.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
What
Sir.
else do we have?
So I think we are done with the question answers. There is no question left. So thank you everyone, and thank you sir for giving us such deeper insights. And I think we are done with the session here. Thank you everyone for joining.
So thank you everyone for having me on board. I think it was mostly one way, and it is very difficult, like I like to have interaction when I can see the faces and actually reactions. There has been plenty of discussion, and my talk is primarily to the School of Management students, that ESG reporting market, waste management market, and ultimately that leasing out concept that Tesla is adopting can be a game changer in Indian context, right? If I'll compare the purchasing power parity of India and America, it is close to 5 times. Means in Indian context, Tesla is offering in $10, and Tesla is actually entering into the market, right? So before Tesla is coming into the play, if someone else like major big players who can have that appetite to invest in those photovoltaic cell starts leasing out, that can be a very good model that you can suggest and you can be a part of. So thank you everyone. It has been a wonderful talk. I wish very best of luck for the future speakers, and thank you for having me on board.
Thank you, sir.
It was a wonderful session, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.